Far-left Democrat and squad member Rashida Tlaib continues to dodge questions about blaming Israel for the deadly Gaza hospital blast, despite U.S. intel saying otherwise.
I'm going to be real with you all. My colleagues, many of them, I usually don't talk smack about them. No, I'm usually considerate because I don't like them policing me, so I don't police them. But as an American, not just as a member of the United States Congress, I am ashamed. I am ashamed that they're saying, not yet, maybe next week.
There you go. Our next guest says supporting Hamas is an endorsement of terror. Joining us right now, a member of the Israeli Knesset. We have Dan Iluz. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. Is that speech 2 days ago now resonating in Israel?
You're talking about Tlaib's speech, just to be clear. I mean, to us, it's very clear what we need to do. We were attacked viciously by one of the worst regimes in the history of humanity, a regime whose evilness is comparable only to ISIS and the Nazis. And so it's very clear that what we need to do is to completely remove this regime. And to be honest, when I see people identifying with this regime, ignoring very clear evidence of the specific hospital bombing that you've described, that it's not Israel's fault, but it's the Islamic Jihad's fault. And in this way, standing by this evil regime, it asks us, it begs the question, what the place of such people is in Western society, what their place is in Western democracies that believe in freedom and human rights. It begs that question. I'm, to be honest, puzzled at how I don't get involved in American politics. Obviously, I'm an Israeli official. I'm not an American. And so I don't get involved in American politics. But it begs the question of how these people who support Hamas actions can have their place in Western democracies.
Yeah, Dan, what is the reality when it comes to the bombing of the hospital? We have proof, evidence that Hamas did that. It was within their own territory. It was not Israel. We have Rashida Tlaib, who's still blaming Israel for it. She's not apologizing and dodging questions from reporters. But the original death toll coming out of Gaza was 500. Then they changed it to 471. But U.S. intelligence agencies are giving a lower estimate for the hospital toll. They're estimating between 100 and 300. There wasn't a crater. There was a fire in the parking lot. The hospital still stands. What do you think?
Just to get the facts as clear as possible, the people who threw the rockets weren't Hamas. They were an associated group called Islamic Jihad, but they're on the same front. I just want to be very clear on the facts so that they don't accuse me afterwards of
Islamic Jihad.
Exactly. It's the Islamic Jihad that threw the rocket. It aimed the rocket at Israeli civilians. They were trying to, with that rocket, target Israeli civilians. You have to understand, in Israel, we've had over 6,000 rockets thrown at us already since the beginning of this war. And every single one of these rockets is aimed at Israeli civilians against international law, hoping to kill hundreds of Israelis. Every single one of these rockets. The fact that they don't do it, that they aren't able to do it, is thanks to technological advancement that we've developed, and thanks to American support also, which I have to also mention here. But every single one of these rockets is aimed at Israeli civilians. With one of those rockets, they weren't able to get to Israeli civilians. They got to their own civilians. But I think that their reactions just outlines the difference between Israel and the Hamas. Israel cares more about Palestinian civilians than Hamas does. When that tragedy happens, Hamas took it as a PR stunt, accusing Israel of a fake bombing, accusing Israel of doing things that it never did. They took it as a PR stunt. While Israel, whenever it attacks Hamas, it does so very precisely, trying to spare civilian lives, alerting civilians before it attacks.
Dan, if you guys do it, it's a mistake. If they do it, it's their intent. And we saw that on October 7th. That's the huge difference, which the president mentioned.
And y'all warn them when you're about to, you say, get out of the north. That's where we're going to go in.
Your propaganda.
We try to spare civilian lives. We have no interest in hurting civilians. We do have an interest in ending the Hamas regime, which is one of the most evil regimes that history has known, as we've seen in what was the greatest terrorist attack that Western civilization has known proportionally.